Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Own It Powercast, the place to come to get what you need to move yourself forward. Hey, it's Mary Baker and welcome to episode 201, Afraid to Make a Choice, Overcoming the Fear of Making Decisions. Well, welcome back to our month, which has been focused on choice and why being in choice and owning our choices is critical for our self-confidence and our life. We've been talking all month about how our choices really do reflect who we are and where we are in terms of self-love and self-trust, and how if folks were looking in on your life from the outside, what would they say about your choices? Well, this week we're going to finish up the month by looking at why it can be hard to not only own but make choices that are good for our life. Since our choices can literally make our life what it is, I think this is an important topic. Why are we holding back? Why are we sitting on the fence? Why are we putting off the decisions we know we need to make? Especially when we're not happy where we are. Simply put, I think the core of all of this is fear. And that's a topic we're going to get into even more deeply next month. But today we're going to talk about some specific culprits that really do hold us back. Namely perfectionism, fear of failure, and resistance to change. So let's start out with perfectionism and fear of failure, which we've talked about here on the show before. Let's look at how they're interconnected. Well, perfectionism is characterized by your striving for flawlessness, and when you set extremely high standards for yourself, often to the point of being unrealistic, even when you know better. People with perfectionistic tendencies tend to focus on their mistakes and flaws rather than their achievements, which can lead to feelings of dissatisfaction and frustration. And like my client said the other day, the inability to be in the moment and even to see all the good stuff that's going on. Now, perfectionism, or the prison of perfectionism, is closely related to the fear of failure, I think, because perfectionists tend to view failure, and here's the kicker, as a reflection of their personal worth. And therefore, they can't handle being judged or criticized by others. That's a big differentiation between I made a mistake and I am a mistake. And even though people would not admit it out loud to you, this is what the driver is for their perfectionism. That if they make a mistake, they are not okay. I mean, think about how high the stakes are for that. So, of course, this fear of failure is going to lead to avoidance behaviors like procrastination. There's a big one. As well as, of course, increased stress and anxiety, which we'll get into more next month. Now, perfectionists also often have difficulty delegating tasks to other people or working in teams because they feel like they are the only ones that can complete a task to their desired level of perfection. In other words, they can't let that go. What if the other person doesn't do it perfectly? So ultimately, the fear of failure can be a major barrier to success and happiness for perfectionists. Because while striving for excellence can be a positive trait, of course, perfectionism can really lead to unrealistic expectations and a fear of failure. So what happens with this is that it can result in excessive self-criticism. A lot of burnout, because this is exhausting, guys. And difficulty accepting feedback and criticism from others, like constructive criticism. So then this, in turn, can really limit your personal and professional growth because it's preventing you from learning from mistakes and taking calculated risks. And that's a big deal. If we cannot learn and be teachable and open and look in the mirror and have people in a loving way tell us where we're screwing up, how are we going to get better and how is our life going to get better? We cannot expand and grow. So therefore, perfectionism can really lead to a lot of missed opportunities. So one of the strategies for overcoming perfectionism and the fear of failure is our perception, which, like we've talked about before, is typically all about the black and white or the all or nothing thinking. The perfect and the horrible that you often hear me talk about. I think in order to slowly step away, because this is a process, from the impossible absolutes that I call them, I think we have to work on our thinking. Like I usually have clients simultaneously work on this perfectionism and the black and white thinking alongside their values, maybe what they prioritize and what they're passionate about, because they're going to need to decide what is more important than perfect or horrible. What's good enough? What is the as long as? Like as long as my kid is safe and has self-love, they say. As long as my house is clean enough. As long as I get there on time. Maybe they think about things they'll regret. Maybe it's not wanting to let themselves down again because they ain't getting any younger. Maybe more important is a higher purpose. Or maybe their anxiety would eat them up again if they don't take this chance and they can't go through that. So it's whatever it is that becomes more important than the fear. So then we talk about at least trying something and we walk through some experimentation, which is no commitment. Remember, you're just trying stuff out that they can do and explain why this is great. Like I tell clients all the time, you can trash this if this doesn't work. Just try it on. You have nothing to lose. Then they're gathering data as they go, right? Because they're trying something. Then they learn really valuable information that I don't think they could have up front. We can project out all we want. We never know. Like taking that first class, going back to school and see how you do. Or painting one wall with a cool new color and see what it looks like. You can always repaint it. Every risk that we take empowers us to take the scarier ones down the road. I always tell clients, start where you are. Start with whatever low-hanging fruit you can grab. And here's the other cool part to this, is you can tweak this and make changes as you go. It is not set in stone, not everything at least. And many people know better, but they're still afraid that it's all or nothing. All that conditional self-worth, all that stuff they were given early on, that's what causes this. If you made a mistake as a kid, you're bad. And today we have to reframe mistakes as opportunities for growth. What can I learn from that? What was the lesson? Maybe setting realistic goals with baby steps like we just mentioned. And practicing a hell of a lot of self-compassion and humor. No more shaming yourself, pulling yourself up, dusting yourself off, and focusing on looking forward. All right, so those are some things that you can try to do. Not just with perfectionism, but with everything. So let's talk more about commitment and procrastination. So procrastination is the act of delaying or putting things off, often till the last possible moment, that lovely, terrifying 11th hour. Those of you who know this know what I'm talking about. It's a very common behavior, and it can be related to a lack of motivation, I think a fear of failure, difficulty with time management, like self-discipline, a lot of boundary work. Can also be connected to commitment issues. Remember, commitment means I'm going to take a risk and I could fail. Do you see how all of this today is interrelated? And if you're afraid of failure because then you're awful if you fail and it's perfect or horrible or all or nothing, why not put it off? When we have difficulty committing to a task or goal, we're going to put it off or we're going to delay it rather than just showing up and ripping off the Band-Aid and doing it. Again, this could be, it has to be perfect. I don't trust myself. I'm not sure I can complete the task successfully. This points to deeper issues of self-esteem, possibly emotional trauma, poor boundaries, all that stuff. People who struggle with commitment may also struggle with decision-making, of course, because making a decision is following through and committing. And you're going to avoid making commitments in order to avoid making the wrong choice. Now, here's the thing. This becomes a pattern of indecision and procrastination as you keep delaying making decisions until the last possible moment, causing all kinds of stress. Or maybe you just say, screw it, I'm not going to decide at all. Now, these have a huge negative impact, obviously, on our personal and professional growth. And there's a lot of pieces that people have to work on with this. One of them is self-esteem, boundary work, the time management skills, the internal boundaries, building confidence in abilities, like trying some things out, getting some love and support around you. Getting a coach is a really big help because you can miss deadlines, you can miss opportunities, you can lose people's trust if you procrastinate and you don't trust or like yourself. So there's a lot of reasons to work on this. The opposite of procrastination is letting go of control of the outcome, showing up, trying some things out, taking some baby steps, screwing it up, getting back on the horse, doing it again. Keep going. Keep going because remember, something else is more important than your fear. Maybe your self-worth is more important. Maybe you want to trust yourself more. Maybe you don't want to be stressed out waiting till the last minute. You know the relief you feel when you finally do it. When you get things done, when you face a person, a difficult issue, you face yourself. It makes us stronger. It makes us trust ourselves more. It lowers our anxiety and lifts our mood. Letting go of control can be really scary. So I think this is a process, and it is a process that runs deep. As you work on yourself, as you get better boundaries, as you clean things up in your life, as you heal some things, as you get healthier people around you, you're going to start feeling so much better about yourself, and you're not going to want to put things off as much. You're going to want to face them. I watch people do this. I watch the transformation. It's very cool. So all of this, letting go of control, is about resistance to change, because maybe change in your life before didn't go well. Maybe it meant loss or trauma, boundary violations, abuse, manipulation, disrespect, having your hopes up as a kid and then bad things happening. It doesn't take much. Our brains are there to keep us safe and make us happy. A lot of times they're not really big on helping us take a risk. So if you have any history of reasons, quote unquote, to want to really feel safe, it's going to be hard for you to want to embrace change, especially change that happens upon you. And again, I think this directly correlates to our sense of self, because if we think life is always happening to us and we don't feel very empowered, we're not going to embrace change. Why would we? We're going to dig our heels in and cross our arms and say, hell no, and have some false empowerment while we're shooting ourselves in the foot, right? Because we're not embracing perhaps good things in our life, because we're not in control of that change. We feel better when we initiate the change. However, we may also initiate change and not follow through when it starts getting really hard. So all of this is self-esteem work, as you can see. So resistance to change means the reluctance or the unwillingness to embrace or accept new ideas, approaches, or situations. Gosh, it can manifest in so many ways, like skepticism, fear, avoidance, snarkiness. It can come from a variety of things, like basically the fear of unknown and the fear of success. Like, what would you do with success? Would you ruin it? Do you deserve it? Could you even handle it if it happened? Fear of the unknown is fear of venturing into new territory and not being in control, in other words, not knowing what to expect. This can create anxiety and uncertainty, leading us to resist change just to stay safe. Maybe miserable and safe, but safe nonetheless. Fear of success, on the other hand, is, I think, the fear of achieving your goals and realizing your potential, making it real. As much as we want this, once we start getting there, it can be really scary. And it can create a sense of pressure and expectation. And it could drive us right back to our comfort zone. Hilariously, when I walk through this with clients and in my own life, you usually aren't allowed to really stay back in your comfort zone for too long before you got to come back out again. You can't undo awareness and you can't undo desire for better. So resistance to change is driven by a desire to avoid negative outcomes. Whether that means we're going to fail or it could be unknown and we could be surprised. And this can come from early trauma, like we talked about earlier. I think it can come from being gaslit and manipulated in your close relationships. Maybe losses or mistakes that had big consequences in the past. However, this resistance can be really problematic because it can prevent us from exploring new things, having new opportunities, letting loving people in, taking healthy risks, and eventually growing and expanding. We can't allow good things in if we stay in fear. One of the things that happens with resistance is stagnation. When we resist change, we tend to remain stagnant in our current situation rather than seeking out new opportunities for growth and development. So this means we're kind of stuck where we are. We're not growing, we're not expanding, we're not evolving. We might not reach our full potential, which I think is really sad. What about all the missed opportunities? When we resist change, we can miss opportunities for personal and professional success and enlightenment and joy. When we're unwilling to take risks and try new things, we're going to miss out on career advancement, learning new things, meeting new people, creating great memories, maybe even leaving a legacy. We have a limited perspective. We have a narrow perspective and we may not be open to new ideas. We're scared. This can also, and people don't talk about this enough, but it can really limit our ability to problem solve. How is life going to get better? How do you resolve conflicts with others? What if your partner wants to grow and expand and you don't? And all of this can create a negative mindset where we focus on the potential drawbacks or risks associated with change rather than the potential benefits. This can lead to a very destructive self-fulfilling prophecy when we don't even feel like we can succeed or achieve our goals. Kind of like this cycle of depression that can go on for people because they're going against their self. And when I say that, I mean their real self wants better, knows there is better, knows that they can be better, but their fear keeps them stuck. So what to do? So we can choose without so much fear, so we can start making decisions. There's a couple different things that we can do that can help us overcome procrastination and increase our commitment. You've already talked about this, right? You already know what's going on. Now it's time to do some things because you're not going to be able to talk your way out of this stuff. One of the things is breaking tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. You're going to be easily overwhelmed and you're going to do the screw it, right? Like all or nothing, perfect or horrible. And large and complex tasks are going to feel overwhelming and contribute to procrastination. You're just going to put it off because you don't even know how to tackle it. If you start finding smaller tasks, more manageable steps, a way to start, you can have a sense of progress and momentum, I think. And that's going to increase your motivation and your self-confidence and your commitment to get it done. Remember the Diderot effect. You just get started, you're going to want more and better. That'll take care of itself. Another thing you can do is use visualization. Like mentally rehearsing a task or a goal, even something that seems scary to you. You have to imagine doing it and you're fine, you're not anxious, you're actually glad that you're doing it. Seeing yourself actually completing that task, hitting the finish line, being successful, and visualizing the positive outcomes that are associated, like all the good things that are going to come from that. This can really increase our motivation and reduce our anxiety, making it so much easier to commit. Just stop for a moment and think about the last wonderful time you had. Maybe you were at the beach, maybe it was a party, being with loved ones. Whatever that is, conjure up that moment. You have no problem visualizing that because it was a really great thing, wasn't it? That great food you had to eat, the wonderful conversation, the wonderful hikes through the woods, whatever it was for you, you can do this already. All you're going to do is apply that to the task or the thing that you need to start tackling. Your brain doesn't know that you can't do it if it can see you do it in its mind. Does that make sense? You can visualize doing it, and you keep visualizing that, it's going to assume you can already do this. Another thing you can do is set deadlines, get those boundaries going, and get some loving accountability. When we commit to completing a task by a certain deadline and share this commitment with someone else, we're more likely to follow through on that commitment. Come on, especially if you're not one to let other people down. This can really help increase your motivation, have that accountability, you're not left to your own devices, and reduce the likelihood of procrastination. You're kept on your toes in a good way. Now, we can have many tantrums on the inside because we're scared or we're this or we're that, but we probably will get it done and feel so much better for it. Using a timer. I have a lot of clients doing this now, just setting a timer for 20 minutes or whatever, just to get you started, just to get you into that task. Just to begin. This is really good for things that we have to concentrate on, like writing, studying, or creating something. Prioritizing can really help too. When we make a list that focus on the most important and urgent tasks first, like eat your peas first and get your mashed potatoes later, can really reduce the likelihood of procrastination. Because you're going to look for those mashed potatoes. You're going to look forward to them. Get the hard things done first. And then celebrate your progress. Even texting someone and say, hey, guess what I got done today, can be a big boost for your motivation and your self-confidence. It makes it easier to stay committed and focused on what you need to do. So obviously, fear is the culprit, and the only way out of fear is action. And your actions are going to change your perceptions, and they're going to change your thinking about the thing and about you. So experimentation, doing a little bit just to start, is a really good way to get used to trusting your decision making. It's a really good way to get you making even small choices, because I know they're going to lead to bigger ones because I watch it happen. So today we talked about some of the reasons why we may struggle to own and make choices that could actually make our life better. We discussed the cost of missed opportunities, connection with others, and our self-trust. From procrastination, perfectionism, and that resistance to change, we explored some of the reasons why we struggle to climb out of the box of safety and ways we can begin to get out there and take some healthy risks and make our life better. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you walked away with something useful. If you think anyone else can benefit from this podcast, please pass it around. Those of you who are doing that, thank you. And if you don't already get the newsletter, make sure you sign up at ownitpowercast.com or hit me up on social. All right, so pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.